Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today's tutorial is for the Vera. This is a pattern from Lacus Designs. I sewed this one a while back and I made several changes to the pattern. The designer is very friendly with you making your own changes and hacks to a pattern. She just wants you to have fun and enjoy sewing with her patterns. So for this one, the main thing I did was I changed up the way the flap was made. I made the flap longer, I added piping, I added this decorative snap, and then on the back I put on a zipper for the back part. I'm going to stick a little bit more to the pattern in this tutorial. So for this one, I won't be rounding the corners of the flap. I will not be adding piping, and mine will be a little bit shorter because I want to be able to show off this really unique shape. I love the way this kind of curves around. You can see that it's just like more of a 3D. It's not flat. It's got a really nice dimension. It opens up really wide. Has a recessed zipper here, and I just love the features. I'm also not going to be adding that zipper pocket here on the back. The pattern tells you to add this pocket inside. I don't think I'm going to do that either. I just really want it to kind of be like a simple, elegant clutch. When I added the piping, I really love the way it looked, but if you decide to add the piping, you really should take off a little bit on the width of this flap because you can see it gets really close to being in the seam allowance. So that's something I learned as well. I'm not adding piping on this one today just because honestly I feel like it doesn't need it. This one I wanted to because I wanted to offset this print since I was using it here on the bottom too. And for this one, I used it as a clutch. The pattern does call for it to be used as a crossbody. I really love just this elegant clutch, even though this is kind of more nature. I just wanted a clutch. I did tell myself if I decided to, I would add grommets in the side. I could still do that at any point to make this a crossbody or even like a hip bag. I know it's a big bag, but I just love the way hip bags look and wear. So could still do that. With the one I'm making today, I'm going to stick with doing it as a clutch unless at the very last minute I'm just like, no, I want this as a crossbody. So let's look at the pattern pieces and the materials that I'm using in the version I'm doing today. In the video today, I'm using all fabrics from My Little Shindig. This is part of her March Fabric Club. So the theme is obvious with the March Fabric Club shipment, and I'm going to go through the fabrics, and there are a few extras. She does have zipper pulls and a tag included in this kit as well. So this will be my flap. I'll have two flap pieces. This will be my interior flap, and I just have it interfaced with a Royal Pixie Light. This is going to be my exterior, and I did go ahead and add a little bit of a decorative piece out of black jelly because I'm adding a magnetic snap here and I wanted to kind of help it to stand out a little bit. I'll show you that snap in just a minute. On this piece, I did go ahead and interface it not only with the Royal Pixie Light, but also a layer of fleece. This will be my recessed zipper panels. You'll have 4 of these. The pattern has you to cut out all 4, and I should have cut them all the same print, but I didn't, and that is just because at the beginning I didn't really kind of understand how these were going to be sewn together. It'll be okay, it won't be a big deal, but you'll probably want to just cut all of yours the same print to make it easier for yourself. So 4 of these, all of them are the cotton woven and interfaced with the Royal Pixie Light. The middle panels. We are going to have 4 middle panels, 2 for the interior, 2 for the exterior. All of mine are the same print. I just kept it simple, cotton woven, medium weight interfacing, which is my Royal Pixie Light. So for these side panels, you're going to have 8 in total. 4 will be mirrored from the pattern piece. I will have to use a pair of these side panels on the front exterior and the back exterior, and then I will use a pair on the interior front and the interior back. So 4 pairs in total, and they will be combined with our middle panels. This is what gives that bag that beautiful shape, that kind of rounded curve, is having these curved panels be mirrored and be sewn on to the middle panel. So those are the fabric pieces I need. If you're making this a crossbody, definitely you will want to add a strap, webbing, chain, whatever your preference is. Let's talk a little bit about the hardware and other things. I'm going to be using a zipper. This is a number 5, and I already have it cut to the length suggested in the pattern. And I also already folded down my edges for 90 degrees. I glued them down already, but I'm still keeping the clips because the glue isn't a permanent glue, but it just helps hold it in place. I'm not adding my zipper pull just yet because I'll probably end up separating these to sew them just to make it easier. So that is my zipper tape. I'm going to have one zipper pull. This pull does come in the monthly fabric kit from My Little Shindig. If you're doing the zipper pocket inside, go ahead and have another zipper and zipper pull with yours. I'm going to be adding one tag. It is from Heartwood and Hide. It is a collaboration with My Little Shindig, and it does come in your March kit. And it says "Don't be trippin'," which is the theme for this March shipment. Oh, I forgot the zipper tab. That is one other piece of fabric that we'll need to have on the end. We're not going to add that on just yet, but I did go ahead, cut it to the pattern measurements, and do a double fold so the raw edges are inside. And the last thing I'm going to have is this magnetic snap. It's this gorgeous snap here. Now, if you've watched other videos, I've shown you how to install these. I won't go through all the details like I have in previous videos. The pattern tells you on the flap to have a magnetic snap on each side. I'm just going to put the one in the center just because I really like this one. If I had two, I'd probably do two because I love these big, beautiful snaps, but I only had the one. So I will install that later. So these are the pieces we need. Let's go ahead and immediately get started creating this bag. First thing I want to do is start working on that recessed zipper. I want to tell you a little story. Like I said, I cut mine wrong, but I also did a couple other things wrong. I've already sewn one of these patterns, so I realized I was wrong, but I didn't want to recut everything, so I'm just going to make it work and we'll talk through it. On the pattern, what you do is you take one of these pieces and you put it right sides together with another piece, just like this. You're going to match up those short edges and you're going to sew them together. If mine look as if they've been folded and creased, it's because they have. I was thinking of just a traditional recessed zipper, and I went ahead and folded all the short ends under. You don't do that with this pattern. You only fold one side of the short sides, wrong sides together. The pattern gives you a measurement and it tells you where to draw the line, and then you fold this down. Well, I did it on all of mine because I wasn't thinking, but you're not supposed to. What you do is you sew these two short sides together and then you finish those by folding them wrong sides together. So let's go ahead and see how that will look. After we have these sewn together, let's press that seam flat. Let's pull out our zipper. If you haven't already turned those edges 90 degrees, go ahead and do that. And what you'll do is you'll place this right sides together. And since mine are different, I want this to be considered the exterior. So I'm going to place that zipper with that 90 degree angle almost exactly in that seam. You could place it right in the seam, but I'm just going to do just a little bit of an offset to help me sew it a little bit easier. And I'm going to place it right sides together with the fabric that I'm considering the exterior. I'm going to clip all along this top edge, clipping those two pieces together. The pattern tells us to go ahead and baste these two pieces together first. I'm feeling a little adventurous, so I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to go ahead and add in the other side and do it all in one step. If this makes you uncomfortable, definitely don't do it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this other piece, fold it directly on top, and clip everything there. This is a little risky because when I'm sewing, I want to make for sure nothing slips, everything stays nice and together, and where your zipper's not attached, there is a chance it could do some slipping. I will sew slow to make sure everything is staying together and the same way. Now I can see here that my edges aren't matching up perfectly, so I'm going to try to make them match up so that everything looks really good together. So this is what I have. The zipper is in between. It's pretty much a zipper sandwich, but you just have this part already attached. So let's go ahead and sew now. With the seam allowance given the pattern, you'll be sewing right up against those zipper teeth, just like you always do whenever you're making a zipper gusset, a zipper sandwich, a pouch, whatever. I am going to just kind of trim just a little bit to kind of reduce some bulk here. I don't want a lot of bulk whenever I turn these out, just so it can get an even top stitch and look really nice. So now what I do is I just push it through. I will take the time to poke out the corners really nicely. And now what you have is this beautiful finished edge with your zipper in between. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take the clips and clip all along this raw edge. We will top stitch along the zipper, and then we'll also baste these two pieces closed. And then we'll do the exact same thing with the other two zipper panels. So let's go ahead and top stitch down this long edge and then baste down this other edge. This is how the first side of that recessed zipper. I'm going to do these same exact steps to attach the zipper panels that we have left to this other side of the zipper. I have my zipper panels done. I went ahead and separated them. It'll make it a little bit easier to attach them in the end. So I have these completed. I'm going to set them aside until we need them towards the end of the sewing. I'm going to go ahead and pull out the flap. I'm not going to have the flap completed at this point. I'm just going to work on getting everything sewn together. I'm going to be putting that magnet on off camera. If you want to see how I install the magnet, I do have another video on my channel showing every step of that magnet installation. So what I'll do first though is I'll go ahead and take these two pieces and put them right sides together, and you can clip along the edges, but we're going to start at the top, back stitch, go all the way down, pivot, go over and back up again. You're going to use that seam allowance given in the pattern and just making sure you back stitch when you start and you stop. So I have these sewn together. I'm just going to trim the corners here to kind of help reduce some bulk. Make sure you do not cut into the stitching. And I also like to trim just a little there at the top. Now if you are using the prong snaps, you would want to have installed them already on the flap because you would want to hide the prong back here. But since I'm doing a different type of snap, I have to go through both layers of the flap to attach my magnetic snap. So just make note of which one you're doing and if you need to hide it. If you're using a riveted snap, you could go through both layers as well. I'm just going to turn this out, taking the time to poke out the corners, and then I'm going to top stitch around the sewn edges, so that would be all three, and then I would baste the top closed. The basting and the top stitching will all be done at 1/8 of an inch. If you feel like your flap needs a little extra flattening, you could take it over to the iron and go ahead and iron it flat. Something I was thinking about earlier, that this would make a beautiful quilted flap, and I may try that at some point and just have really just a nice feature there. But for this one, I'm going to let the print just kind of stand out on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch and base along all the sides. Here is how my flap looks. Like I said, I'm going to attach that magnet off camera. If you have any questions about how to attach a magnet, you can always just post it in the comments, or you can watch the other video, whichever you prefer. So I'm going to set this aside as well. And we're going to pull out some of these other pieces here. So let's start by laying out one of our middle panels. We are going to have a side panel on each side of this. These side panels have to be mirrored, so we're going to have to pull out a mirrored set. So this is one mirrored set. The way it's going to go is a little confusing, but I want to take the time to kind of point this out because this is what helps me. One side is a little bit straighter than the other. We can imagine this being the exterior of the bag. Let's go ahead and put this in here. And so it's going to kind of look like this. When you put it like this, you can kind of see that shape going, and it makes a little bit more sense. Another way you can think about it is this kind of pregnant side, the kind that sticks out, is going to be what you're sewing to this middle panel. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're sewing a straight to this really extreme curve. It is okay. What you can do, and what I suggest, is to go ahead and fold this in half, and let's mark our centers. The way I'm marking the centers is I'm just going to add a clip there in the middle of both. If you would want, you could even do a little snip, or you could also make a mark with a pin within the seam allowance. So when we have those centers marked, it's going to be a little bit easier for us to put these together, because it's confusing and you're like, okay, am I lining them up? Is it exactly in the middle? Is it going to look okay at the end? When I did this the first time, I did not use any clips, and I just kind of sewed it without the clips. I want to show you how it looks when it's clipped together, and you can see it comes right down there, perfectly matches at the end. Yours should as well. If you're having a lot of difference with the matching up of the ends, then you would want to kind of go back and check your measurements, check the centers, make sure everything is cut appropriately. So once you have it all clipped together, it's going to look like this. We're going to take our time and we're going to start sewing at that bottom, or you can do the top, whichever you want, with the seam allowance given in the pattern. I'm going to go slow, holding everything to make sure the edges stay lined up and that I am able to keep that seam allowance even while going with the curve. I will take my time to occasionally just peek and make sure I'm not losing the middle panel. And you also want to make sure you're not sewing over any kind of puckers or bumps, since this isn't laying like flat together. So let's open this up. What we want to do is we want to keep this middle piece completely flat and keep those seams pushed to the side panel. So I'm going to kind of pull it out, and you can see it even wants to go that way. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to be top stitching on this side panel because I'm attaching that seam to the side panel. If you feel like it's a little uncomfortable and you're afraid you will miss the seam, or it will kind of shift and go back over the middle, you could always sew this from the wrong side. But what I'll do is I'll sew 1/8 of an inch away on the side panel, and I'll keep my fingers feeling that seam. You'll be able to feel it easily through the fabric, and just kind of keep going. You can see how it's kind of bunching up there. Just take your time, pull it flat, open it wide, and continue sewing. At this point, it looks kind of like a bowl. You can see it laying this way, but if you push it out, you can see that shape taking place. Beautiful, beautiful. We're going to do the exact same thing with all the middle panels, with all these side panels. We're always going to attach them together, matching up the centers and sewing down with the seam allowance given in the pattern. We are always going to push that seam to the side and then top stitching on the side panel. I'm going to go off camera to complete all of these. When I come back, I'll have all 4 of these done. I was able to sew up all 4 of these panels, a middle panel and then 2 side panels on the exteriors and interiors. This is going to be one of my exteriors, the front. I have a clip here marking the center because I eventually need to put that other half of the magnet. I'm not for sure exactly where it's going to go just yet, so I'm going to wait until I get a little bit later in the pattern before I attach the magnet. So I'm going to set this piece aside for just a minute. I finished my flap and I did attach the magnet. Like I said, I have a video detailing how to add this magnet, but basically you have to screw it in on this side, and so you have to go through both layers of the flap. So I have that there. What I did was I went ahead and centered it onto the back portion of the exterior. So I marked the center on the flap, I marked the center on the back, and just attached it. We want to attach it with that magnetic side up so the snap can attach to the front exterior. I did also add the tag. I love the tag, it's adorable. I just randomly figured out how far down I wanted it to go. I wanted to make for sure it was definitely a focal point. I put it in the center, but I didn't have an exact measurement. I just kind of eyeballed that. This is the back of the bag. The next thing I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and baste on this flap piece. Also, I finished up both of the linings and my zipper panels. I went ahead and took one zipper panel and I did separate mine just for ease of attaching. And what I did was I found the center of the zipper panel, the center of the interior, and I just clipped it. This is considered my exterior. So my zipper panel is right sides up. You want to understand that whenever you have this together, that your zippers match up and that you will be able to have the zipper teeth right sides up. If you attach the zipper panels with the teeth of the zipper the wrong side up, you wouldn't be able to open your bag. So just keep that in mind and kind of eyeball it and think about it a little before you sew it on. I will sew both of these zipper panels on. Like I said, they're just centered onto the interior with the raw edges matched up. So I'm going to do all three of these steps to get these pieces all attached and aligned. Now that I have those pieces attached, it's time to go ahead and start putting things together. I do want to make note that I understand that because I have this heavy magnet, I could possibly stand to add a little more interfacing onto this bag. With the last one, I added Decaville Light to the bag, kept it all the same allowances. I really didn't feel like doing it to this one. I wanted to try and see if it would work out, but I am fully aware that I probably should add extra interfacing. Push come to shove, if I want to after I get it sewed together, if I'm really like, I want more, I can always add it then as an insert. So what I'm going to do now though is I'm going to go ahead and work on these interior pieces. I'm going to start by clipping them right sides together here at the top. Before I clip all the way around and before I sew everything, I am definitely going to check on those zippers. I want to see if my zippers, and you can see they are matching up perfectly, almost exactly. I feel really good. I'm going to peek in here. Yep, you can see the curves are doing great. I just wanted to make for sure that I could even get a zipper pull on. If I had it like so crooked that it wouldn't even zip up or it was very obvious, I would want to take everything apart. So I'm going to clip all along this top, check it one more time before I sew everything together. I'm off a little bit here, but that doesn't bother me as much as if the zipper teeth would be off. So I'm going to clip all around, feeling first. They feel like they're great. I'm going to peek up. Yep, they still look great. That's all I'm worried about. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip all around the sides. This zipper tail is going to go inside. I'm going to make sure that I do not sew it. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up so this poking out the top and clip it there. I do not want to get that caught. So what I'm going to do is I did not add any pockets to the inside. If you added pockets, you could turn this bag, you could berth the bag through the zipper pocket, leave an opening there. I didn't do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave an opening here in the bottom of the bag and turn it through the opening here. For the exterior, I'm going to clip it together the same exact way, but on that one, of course, I will not need to leave an opening. I will just sew it all the way around. We definitely want to make for sure that we keep the seam allowance the same at the top on both the exterior and the lining. We don't want to have any problems with this fitting in there properly. Now, if you want to grade the seams on the lining, I understand that. When I say grade, that means we start at one seam allowance and we just come in a little bit as we're going around the rest of it to make it a little bit tighter fit at the bottom. I'm not going to do it. I felt like my last one fit just fine, so I'm going to trust that this one will too. But if you wanted that, you could do that. But definitely leave your opening at the bottom unless you have a zipper pocket. I'm going to sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern all around this curved edge, leaving my top open, of course. I'm going to do the same thing for the exterior, except for the exterior, I won't leave the opening that I'm leaving in the lining. The lining is done. I left the opening here. I'm going to sew the exterior off camera and do it the same way without leaving the opening, like I said. And I'm also, after I get the exterior sewn, I'm going to make for sure I figure out where I want to place the other portion of the magnetic snap. I'm going to raise my camera angle a little bit higher so hopefully you can see this a little bit better. But what we have now is we have the exterior with my flap attached, right sides out. For my lining, I have it wrong sides out. And I was looking at the pattern, and the pattern does have the opening in the bottom too, even if you did have a zip pocket. But if you wanted, you could have a zip pocket and open that way. But this one, I have the opening in the lining. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my exterior and insert it into the lining. I want to make sure that my zipper closes to the left, so I'm going to insert the bag in that way. And then I will just match up these side seams first. If you marked your centers, you can match those. I'm going to butterfly these side seams. I'm going to go around, clip everything together, then sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern all the way around the top. I want to make sure my flap is tucked inside. I want to make sure the zipper ends are tucked inside and that everything is nice and neat so that I can get a really good sew all the way around. After I sew with that seam allowance given in the pattern, then I will pull the bag, berth it through that opening in the bottom, straighten everything out, and then top stitch, and we are done. I love Sylvie's patterns. Whenever I'm like having a hard day, whenever I'm just a little sad, I will go to one of her patterns. They just make me happy. I don't know if it's because the patterns are just fun, well-written patterns, or if it's because I just love Sylvie so much. I don't know which one it is. Doesn't really matter. The same thing. They just bring me joy when I sew them. If you haven't sewed one of her patterns, I highly suggest it. If you're not in her Facebook group, really suggest that. She is a wonderful person, and I feel like she does deserve the support of the sewing community. She is a mother that works on sewing patterns to help her family. It's just wonderful, and her heart is just so good. Okay, I almost have this clipped all the way around. Let's go ahead and sew around and then turn everything out. I'm going to stop right here and remind you that if you wanted your D-rings, you still need to insert those in there. If you wanted to put them on for a crossbody strap, you could put them in the sides here. You could have also put them in the side seams of your exterior, whichever way you would choose. Either way would be fine. And if you're still trying to decide, you could always do grommets later and attach the strap that way. Everything looks and feels great. I'm not going to trim down any seam allowances. I'm completely fine with everything. So I'm just going to start slowly turning through this opening. I did leave mine very small. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. I think it'll be just fine. So I'll just go slow. I'll go with one side at a time. I will probably save that flap for last just because it has that magnet and the jelly on it, and I really want to make for sure I don't do any damage there. Okay, I have everything turned out, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this opening while I top stitch. Lots of times I'll close that opening first, and then it's always a little bit trickier just to get the seams rolled the way I want. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I could stick my hand in there just to smooth everything out again. So this time I'm just going to leave the opening till the very end. I'm going to go ahead and roll those seams. Let me get this thread out of the way too. So first thing I'll do is I'll clip the side seams. I want to do that on both sides of the bag. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push that recessed zipper down in there because we want it to be recessed. So it's going to be in there. The flap is going to be up. We're not going to sew through it. So this time it's going to be sewing all around that recessed zipper with the flap up. So I can't really clip around there, of course. So I'm just going to smooth it with my hand on this side. I'm going to kind of do the same thing, but on this side I can clip. This part always gets a little confusing to me. Where does the recessed zipper go? Where do I top stitch? But just remember, the recessed zipper is recessed. It's inside down in there, so we're going to keep it down in there. We want to try to not see any of that zipper panel from the exterior if we can. If you do see some, it's okay, but that's the goal, is to have it down in there. So like I said, I won't be able to clip it down on this side, and whenever I pull my flap up, it'll kind of help that recessed zipper to go down and to also have the seam allowance going down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to top stitch an 1/8 of an inch away all the way around the exterior, and then that will keep the seam allowances where I want it to go, have the recessed zipper the way I want it to go, and it'll finish the bag. They only have a few steps left. I am pulling these two apart, making sure I'm flattening the seam with my fingers, just so I know where it's going, and then I'm sewing it indeed down. Guys, oh my gosh, I don't know if you can see that really good. I'm going to change the camera angle and get it framed, but that is stunning. I absolutely love it. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to, actually let me go ahead and close up that opening first, and then I'll add the zipper and the zipper tab. Or the zipper pull, I mean, and the zipper tab. So let's just go ahead and close that. I just push my fingers in the sides and pull. Get that closed. Stick that lining back in there, straighten everything out. Look, that lining fits really well, guys. Very nice opening on this. Beautiful. Okay, so let's just make for sure. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of match up this zipper so that whenever I add the pull, it's decently even on both sides. I just have a slight bit of difference in the length. I'm going to clip that off. I am going to not lose any of the length. I like it open like this, kind of long, because it can help the zipper to open wide. So I'm leaving that there. I'm just going to put my pull on. Make sure I did a decent job. Yep, that's good for me. Take out that zipper tab we made previously. Let's just slip it on there and just top stitch. Oh my gosh. Everything is beautiful. I love this fabric. I love the pattern. I love the details of everything with it. It's just great. I'm going to stick that zipper down in there. Okay, let's go and put everything in there. I'm going to change the camera angle so we can see the bag really nicely while we talk about the last few things. This amazing pattern is called Vera. It is from Lacus Designs. Sylvie is the owner and has a Facebook group. Definitely join. She just does wonderful things. I know she has another pattern coming out, and I can't wait to get my hands on it and sew it as well. Fabrics are from My Little Shindig. It's part of her monthly fabric club. So is the tag. Look at that gorgeous tag from Heartwood and Hide. It is a collaboration. Let's just look at that zipper pull and open everything up. There is the zipper pull, recessed zipper, completely wide open. The only thing I would do differently is I probably could have added just another layer of even just like an SF101, or as I use Royal Pixie Light, could have added another layer of that to give this bag a little more structure, but honestly, I'm completely okay with it. I can't wait to take pictures. I can't wait to share this. Great pattern, great, great, great. Thank you so much to Sylvie and to Katie. I really appreciate the fabrics and the pattern. And for Sylvie, definitely thank you for letting me make a tutorial for your pattern. And today, I hope you have time to sew something fun, beautiful, and something that just makes you smile too. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.